My name's Sean Hodkin. I'm a professional tennis player from Scunthorpe, and this is my journey. My goal is to show you what it takes to be a professional tennis player, and my dream is to make it to the top 250 players in the world and play in Grand Slams. So here we go. My earliest memories of professional tennis were here in Lincoln. When I was 17, I pretty much gave up on school and went full-time training to try and become professional. I was really lucky that there was a David Lloyd here, and I had a coach who was willing to go above and beyond to help me. And there were a lot of really supportive members at the club who helped me out massively with sponsorship. From this small city, not well known for its tennis, I achieved the #1 ranking in the UK for under 18s and got my first world ranking point at 18. And since then, I've been playing professionally now for 7 years. I remember running up this hill so many times. After 3 or 4 hours on court and an hour in the gym, I'd run 3 miles to Lincoln, up that hill, and be finished for the day. But now I was walking down it. I hope that's not a metaphor for something. I was on my way to London for a full week of training and working. Now you're probably wondering why I'm not competing. And the simple answer is money. Tennis is a really expensive sport, and I think on average, it costs around £500 per week to compete. So this is why I'm coming to London, because I have the chance to earn more money and still train at the same time. And I also want to increase my chances of finding a sponsor so that I can play full time on the professional circuit. Now there are professional tournaments in the UK, but not enough to play a full year on. And the less tournaments you play, the harder it is to just get momentum. One of the advantages about being in London are that there are so many tennis venues and just so many players to hit with. It's just really easy to find training. For me, one of the best tennis facilities is David Lloyd Rains Park. They have loads of indoor courts and a really modern gym that has a lot of equipment that would benefit a tennis player. Now, don't get me wrong, it isn't cheap to be a member here, but if you were looking to train a lot of hours, using a lot of courts, it definitely works out cheaper than hiring out courts individually for the hour. So I don't need to tell you that living in London is expensive. At the minute, it wouldn't really make sense for me to rent a place, because all the money that I would then save up would just go on rent instead of playing professional tournaments. So instead, I stay on an airbed in my friend's office. One of the difficult things about being on a budget is the nutrition. Thankfully, breakfast is pretty easy. I normally have about 200 grams of porridge with honey and normally have a 5-egg omelette, but obviously couldn't be bothered to make it that day. To fit everything in, my days start pretty early. I'm up at 6. I sometimes do a quick warm-up before I leave and definitely have a strong coffee. So training early in the morning works better for me because I usually work in the afternoon and late evening. So training in the morning means I'm that little bit more fresh. I can focus a little bit more on improving, so my legs aren't going to be tired. And it's not really about the volume of training. It's more about the intensity and how much your mind is engaged. I'm spending about an hour and a half to 2 hours for myself on court a day, so I have to make the most of that time and put 100% in. And then things like this happen. Each time I break a string, it costs me £15 to get it restrung. Now this wouldn't be an issue if I had my own stringing machine, but obviously I don't because I don't live in London. So training on a budget is actually still pretty expensive. Now I break strings probably every 3 to 4 hours. So every 3 to 4 hours costs me £15, plus the cost of the string. Which thankfully at the minute I get it through All Things Tennis as they sponsor me. So what do my sessions look like at the minute? So there's a lot of volume, we do a lot of hitting. Main aim is to stay loose, to keep the depth, trying to get on the front foot as much as possible, and just keeping sharp by adding in bits of movement, some condition points. So in an hour and a half, we can actually train a lot. We don't take many breaks, the intensity is pretty high. So that's my hour and a half session done. Now I was flagging a little bit, so I had to have another coffee. David Lloyd coffee, underrated. And then it was time to head to the gym. Now, because I'm doing so many hours on court, I've got to look after myself. So typically I'll start with about 15 minutes of stretching, and I'll just use whatever I can. Now, this gym's great because it has power plates, Theraguns, foam rollers, like, it's awesome. So my training in the gym is pretty similar to the training on court. I don't like to do really long hours. I'll just do 45 minutes to an hour at a really good intensity. And trust me, if you do 45 minutes of the workouts that I do, you wouldn't really want to do any more. And for the time that I have at the minute, it works out pretty well. Just short pockets of really high intensity training. I'll try and do as many tennis specific exercises as I can while keeping my base layer of fitness really high. So I'll use the things like the watt bike, and I'll just go as hard as I can for 10 minutes, pushing my maximum watts. Sometimes I change it up with intervals, but I find the bike really useful because it's so low impact. One of my favorite pieces of equipment to use is the curve mill. It's really good for intervals. It's harder than a treadmill and lower impact, so it's better for your joints, which as a tennis player is crucial. And then I'll go into some strength training. I like to do a lot of lunges, a lot of squats. I keep it really simple. Again, these are awesome for tennis because they're training your quads, your glutes, which you're using a lot on court. And then I'll move into some explosive movement exercises, which again, if you want to move quicker on court, these are the sort of things that you have to do. When I'm doing any sort of jumping, I like to do it on a softer surface just to make sure that my joints are as protected as possible. And then it's core. I'll try and do as many rotation exercises as I can, as that's mimicking a shot in tennis. I find the cables really useful for things like this. And I won't just do these cable pulls at one height. I'll try and change the height of the cable so it replicates high balls, low balls, and just building strength in different parts of your core. And then to finish off, I'll do some shoulder strengthening. Now, as this is the part of the body that I use the most for tennis, I've got to keep this strong. So I'll put the cable on quite a low weight and do these exercises. So that is my training pretty much done for the day. But I've still got another 3 hours on court. I've got to go and do some work, so the next thing that I have to do is find some lunch. And as I am on a little bit of a budget, it's gonna have to be a Tesco job. Now, I know that might seem like quite a lot of food, but you've got to bear in mind that I spend about 5 hours on court a day, and then also hopefully a gym session. So yeah, I've got to keep fueled up. It's really important, and some of it's not clean food, I'll admit, but yeah, it's just getting the calories in, and I burn it all off anyway. So yeah, as long as there's protein, carbs, it doesn't really matter too much. So after I nailed those meal deals, it was time to head to my next hit. This is such a beautiful club with a stunning setting. They have 3 hard courts, 3 clay and 4 grass. And as we were blessed with the weather, we decided to hit on the grass. Now, after being spoilt at Wimbledon, hitting with top players there on their courts, I have to say that these were up there with some of the best grass courts that I've played on. The bounce was really true. Didn't get many bad bounces at all, which if you played on grass is to be expected, really. Found it really easy to rally from the baseline, keep a rhythm. It was just a bit surreal being able to play on a grass court in September. I just wish that there were more events on grass. It's such a fun surface to play on. It brings out a lot of creativity in your game. It teaches you to adapt, and it's also nurturing a more aggressive game style. and develops your play at the net. So the guy that I was playing with is one of my clients, and he's super solid, hits a great ball, and he's just improving all the time. And it was quite funny because I kind of forgot that it was work and I was just having so much fun playing on the grass, and we were both just having a good time. And I got into a real rhythm and I was just nailing it. So I've played so much on indoor carpet and Astro, so it really suits me when the ball is bouncing lower. So on the grass, it was just perfect for my game. I felt like it was just at the right height that I could really lay into it, take it early, and as you can hear by the sound of the ball, I was crushing it. Well, we both actually were.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty standard session. We spent about half an hour hitting up and down the middle, then we went into cross courts, played at the net, and then in the second hour of the practice we went into playing points, playing with serve. And again, it was pretty intense. There weren't many breaks. I don't feel like our quality really dipped at all. Recently, I've been really trying to improve my volley. The things that I've been doing are keeping my left hand out to support and make sure that I have enough space to hit the ball, keeping my hands in front, and then trying to step through the ball with my front foot, similar to what I do on the ground strokes. You can see that the footwork's actually pretty similar. And then I'm trying to look through the strings almost on contact, so that it's that far in front of my body. So even when I'm hitting with clients, I can still work on parts of my game, and it also has a big benefit for them. And I'll always start close to the net, just to focus on the feel, and then I'll work on the transition by going a little bit further back and just moving through the ball each time. So with that 2-hour session done, that took the total time on court to 3.5 hours, and it was then time to head to my next session, which was at Wimbledon Park. So again, a little bit of a trek across London, but you know, that's the grind. So just finished my last session of the day, and now it's time to head back, potentially go in the sauna, definitely get some food. So yeah, it's been a long one. Time to go and get some rest. So I believe this is what they call Tesco in the south. So again, with the food, I'm on a little bit of a budget, but eating clean is pretty easy anyway, so I just go for the old chicken pasta pesto, cook that up, and then settle in for the night. And before I go to bed, I like to check in on a few of my favourite YouTubers and what they're doing. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Like and subscribe for more content.